ESBR Boxing. We're back with more final predictions. This one in the featherweight division, and it is a big rematch, Thomas, between Brandon Figueroa and Stephen Fulton. Pleasure to be joined by you as always, mate. And this is a fight I'm really looking forward to. And before we get stuck in and give our final predictions, please do like this video, drop us a comment, that subscribe button, all of the usual. And yeah, we've got all of your boxing needs under one roof at ESBR. Including this fight between Figueroa and Fulton, the rematch at featherweight this time. Obviously the previous one being at super bantam. Thomas, what is your final prediction for the rematch between Stephen Fulton and Brandon Figueroa?
Yeah, this time, man, I see Figueroa getting it done. I just feel like quite a bit has changed in that 2 to 3 years since their first fight.
Yep.
Obviously, Stephen Fulton got annihilated by Inoue Inoue, or Naoya Inoue, excuse me. So I think that just took a lot out of him, just judging by how he performed in his last fight. I mean, barely squeaked by, and just didn't really look too impressive all around. So you have to wonder what effect that loss had on his confidence. Seems to be pretty significant. And in the meet, on the other hand, Figueroa since then has looked in a completely different form. He's winning his fights and he's looking impressive. Um, and his style as well. You obviously just like his brother, he throws a ton of punches and has seemingly has an endless gas tank. So I think right now, uh, kind of a nightmare matchup for Stephen Fulton. But I see Figueroa getting it done. Um, I'm gonna say perhaps a bit earlier than I predicted in our big fight breakdown, but I'm gonna say round 8 or 9. Uh, Figueroa is gonna get him out of there. I just think, perhaps he has some success early on Fulton, but um, I don't really. I do think that he's just not the same guy that he was in that first fight. So yeah, I got Figueroa by stoppage, round 8 or 9.
Yeah, yeah, interesting, Thomas. I think a few points that you said there I completely concur with. I mean, without having a fully fledged belt, obviously, Brandon Figueroa could be the single best 126er in the world for my money. I think we'll find that out hopefully in the next couple of years with with the Saudi fights, the Riyadh season money and all of that there. We're seeing a lot more of the big fights happening. A couple of the featherweights are already involved in that. Your Nick Balls of this world. Um, put Brandon Figueroa against Nick Ball, Figueroa against Anthony Leo, obviously who beat Luis Alberto Lopez, and then some of those other big featherweight champions. Espinoza, that's another great fight. Figueroa against Espinoza would be like two middleweights fighting at featherweight, the height of them. But anyway, that's maybe further down the line. I think I agree with what you've said, mate. I'm going revenge this time. I think third fight was very close. Fulton, I did give Fulton a chance in the Inoue fight. Um, I mean, can you even say he had moments of success? Maybe for the first couple of rounds, but eventually he kind of got pieced up, didn't he? I think that's had a damaging effect on him as well. I agree with what you've said there. I think on a featherweight debut last time out, there was kind of warning signs there. He scraped by. Was that because he knew he was going to win? He didn't have to be at his best. Maybe going to be more up for it against Figueroa because he is an underdog this time, even though he won the first fight. That could be a factor. But we can only go off what we're seeing of late, and you're only as good as your last performance, really, aren't you? Um, and looking at that, Brandon Figueroa holds all the aces here for me. I think I agree with you, Thomas. We've kind of agreed with a lot of our recent videos and final predictions with the stoppage, but maybe a little difference in the rounds. This time, I completely concur with what you've said. That round 7, 8, 9 mark for Brandon Figueroa again. I think it'll be in the second half of the fight, but I'm going Brandon Figueroa stoppage. He's heavy handed. As you mentioned, that gas tank is incredible. The output, he might not be a one punch knockout artist, but like when you're landing a barrage of shots and these combinations with 6 or 7 punches, um, and landing them at will, several times in a round. I mean, it's hard to get out of the way of. I think if it is going to be a stoppage, it'll be an accumulation of shots. Fulton might go down. Figueroa might put it back on him, and the referee might jump in. That's kind of the way I see it. I don't see it being a stone cold one punch KO, although I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't want to diminish as well. You know, Stephen Fulton's a former unified world champion at super bantamweight, has all the tools. You know, he's a great fighter. He's a world level fighter. He's a world class fighter. But I think Brandon Figueroa was the real deal. As I said, it's a story. It's a chat for another video. But I think he could be the guy at 126 pounds. Whether or not we find that out in the next few years, I hope we do, and we get those big fights. Yeah, it'd be incredible to see. But yeah, from I agree with you, mate. I think Brandon Figueroa gets this done inside the distance. Picking up on what I've just said, I know this is a final prediction video, so I don't want to dwell on this for too long. But just quickly, Thomas, we're both predicting Brandon Figueroa to win. Say Figgy wins. What does the rest of 2024 look like, and how does he fare against the current champions at feather?
Ooh, featherweight's so loaded, you know. That I think he would. Well, first of all, I think it's really like a matter of whether or not PBC would let him fight any of those other guys. Um, but if he were, like, I would love to see him against Espinosa. Like, I think that would be a hell of a fight. Um, both guys throw a lot of punches. Um, and I mean, stylistically, it's just as entertaining as it can get. Um, I I'm not ready to say that he uh beats any champions definitively uh at 126. But I'm not ready to say that he loses to him either. Um, it's tough. I would really like to see him against any one of those guys in a unification fight. I think it's just a matter of whether or not it would happen.
Yeah, mate, I agree. I think I'm maybe getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I do believe he's the real deal, Brandon Figueroa. And in a world now where quite a lot of these big fights are happening, whether it be unifications, we've seen a lot of undisputed fights recently, obviously at heavyweight and light heavyweight, ringing the bell. Um, I think, yeah, I think these fights could happen. You're right. I'm not saying definitively, oh, Brandon Figueroa wins every single one of those fights against champions via stoppage. No, I'm not saying that. Could he win them all? Yeah, I could see him winning them all. There's also plenty of fighters there that would fancy their chances of beating Figueroa. And at the end of the day, Stephen Fulton beat him. I know that was at Super Bantam, but he'd shown that he is beatable. He's not. I don't think anyone's maybe unbeatable, unless your name's Naoya Inoue. But anyway, that's a story for another video. But yeah, I think you're right, mate. Maybe don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I do give him a chance against each of the champions. But equally, you know, if he put him in with Espinoza next, if that was, I doubt that happened, but say he did, you'd probably still be making Espinoza a favourite. And I can see why. But equally, you could see Brandon Figueroa, causing him a few issues. But yeah, as I said, mate, that's a story for another day. That was our final predictions. It's a fight I'm really looking forward to. The rematch between Brandon Figueroa and Stephen Fulton. WBC World Featherweight title action. And yeah, do not miss it. Let us know in the comments, guys, your predictions, whether you think it's repeat or revenge. Could Stephen Fulton, despite winning the first fight, could he repeat that feat as the underdog this time? And let us know in the comments. Please like this video and drop us a subscribe on the channel too. Thomas, absolute pleasure as always, mate. I'll speak to you again soon.
Likewise, thank you.